Hello everybody, I'm Zoidberg, welcome to UK Gaming Network, and welcome back to the countdown of what I consider to be the 100 games that you should be putting onto your A500 Mini. We left things off last time with Arkanoid, which was the game at number 91, so let's add another 10 games to the countdown by seeing what games occupy positions 90 to 81.
Following on from the runaway success of Project X and 2 Alien Breeds, Super Frog was the next game developed by Team 17. With a toe-tapping soundtrack from Alistair Brimble, it's a super slick platformer that offers a nice variety of levels and some crisp, clean cartoon graphics. And now, being able to program the controls on the joypad makes it even more enjoyable to play than ever. The original Switchblade, developed by Core Design, had some great ideas that it never really capitalised on. Gremlin took those ideas and crafted a much improved sequel. It's a game that encourages and rewards exploration with plenty of secret rooms and routes to discover. Thankfully, there's generally only one way to go, so the lack of an in-game map isn't really an issue. I'm not going to lie, it took me a long time to fall for the charms of Gem X, an addictive puzzle game that, despite appearances, came from German developer Keiko. It's a game that initially looks far more complicated than it actually is, and once you work out the basics of how the colour switching system actually works, you'll progress through the levels naturally. By the time Watchtower was released in 1996, a lot of Amiga owners, myself included, had moved on to the PlayStation or Sega Saturn. What we all missed out on was a challenging top-down shooter partly inspired by Capcom's Commando and all those one-man army action movies from the 1980s. It's a game that's well worth seeking out, especially if, like me, you hadn't even heard of it until now. Super Hang-On is legions ahead of other arcade conversions to hit the Amiga, especially the woeful versions of Outrun and Chase HQ that we were subjected to. The sensation of speed is successfully carried over from the arcade, and as you'll play you'll be humming along to the excellent renditions of the original music. Just don't go expecting it to be an easy ride. Developer Binary Emotions clearly realised that there's no attempting to hide the main influence for the Spurious legacy. Right from the start, it's obvious that this wants to be the Amiga's answer to Zelda, and while it lacks much of what makes Nintendo's game great, it still provides an excellent action RPG experience, even if the first hour could do with a little more guidance for the player. WizKid, Sensible Software's long-awaited sequel to their Commodore 64 classic Whizball, is easily one of the most bonkers games ever made. Fortunately, it's also incredibly entertaining. It's a game of two halves, and both are equally enjoyable, although don't go expecting any of the puzzle solutions that you come across to make any kind of sense. Fortunately, there are lots of solutions that you can find online. Released almost 2 years after the Commodore 64 original, the wait for the Amiga version of Myth, History in the Making, was more than worth it, with a special mention going to the game's excellent graphics. Any knowledge of mythology that you have going in will help you defeat the likes of Medusa, Odin and Anubis, and solving the game's levels is immensely satisfying. Pushover, which requires the player to make all the dominoes fall in sequence, features one of the most perfectly paced learning curves of any puzzle game I've ever played. Throughout its 100 stages, it introduces each domino type slowly, so by the time you reach the more challenging latter levels, you'll be armed with all the knowledge that you need to solve them. Jet Strike is one of those games where it's fun to experiment with the controls and features long before you even consider taking on the actual missions. Getting to grips with flying the many planes at your disposal through the tutorials is only half the battle though, and once you start taking part in the thrilling aerial duels, you'll have a whale of a time.
So we now know the first 20 games in the countdown. If you disagree with any of my choices, then please let me know in the comments which games you'd have picked instead. If you want to see the next part of the countdown, then please make sure you give us a like and subscribe so that you don't miss out. I'll be playing all of these games on my Twitch channel over the next 2 weeks, so search for UKGN Zoidberg over on there to make sure that you don't miss that as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. See you next time.